Okay, everybody, how was lunch? Thank you so much to our food services here, and thank you to the student union staff. So if you see any of them throughout the day, please make sure to tell them thank you. I think that this might be one of the first statewide organizations to have a conference in this building. They just opened this place up in January, and they're just doing a remarkable job. So thank you to them. Now, before we bring Charlie up, we have some gifts for you that we're going to, so you can, we'll bring them to you, okay? So from the host committee, we've got a basket for you, all things Lincoln. We love our Lincoln in Springfield, if you didn't know that. So we've got you some Lincoln socks. We've got a book from our Lincoln scholar. That's perfect. That's wonderful. And then we've also got some things from UIS. And then that book that we have in there is actually from our Lincoln scholar here in Springfield. So hopefully you will enjoy that. And as far as ILACADA and formally introducing Charlie up to the stage, I'm going to give the microphone over to Melissa Franzen.
Thank you. Sure. A little awkward. Well, Charlie, when you come up, we would love to present you with the award. As you guys have Charlie, and I get the great pleasure of introducing him to you today. So Charlie brings with him today a wealth of experience and knowledge beyond probably any of your imaginations. He has been through all realms of the world of academia, beginning with an associate's degree at a community college, working all the way through his doctorate in educational leadership and higher education. But along the way, he didn't just learn. He also was teaching through both secondary and post-secondary education levels, and he was very involved with his state organizations and then taking on leadership roles through NACADA. Charlie is your executive director of NACADA, and we are now all allied members of NACADA now that you are attending this wonderful conference. But Charlie, we are truly, truly grateful for you coming here today, and we want to present you with this. I don't know if you see the beautiful little picture on there.
That is adorable. Thank you. It's a bow tie.
It's a bow tie. Charlie is known for his bow ties. But we are so grateful for you. Thank you so much. And then I'll put it back in the bag. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not heard this man speak before, you are in for a real treat. So please put your hands.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. What she really just got finished saying is, I'm just old. I always love when someone does that presentation because it either says I'm old or I can't keep a job, one or the other. And both might be true, but after 16 years at the executive office and 11 years as the executive director, I'm always kind of shocked when someone still asks me to come speak because it's like, God, haven't y'all heard me already before? And I'm really always shocked when Illinois does because I've probably been here more than any place else, and y'all ought to be damn tired of me by now. But it's interesting, my secretary, Kathy Swartz, knows me well enough and knows how much ILACADA and Illinois and Terry Farr and all of you mean to me, that this is the only place she would allow me to come before annual conference next week. She normally doesn't let me travel for these 2 weeks. So when this came through, I sent it to her and said, is there? She said, yes, it's Terry and ILACADA and Illinois. You can go there. So you might want to just write Kathy and thank her because she's the only reason I'm here. But I really am so excited to be here today and be a part of your discussion and part of the conversations. It is an exciting time for advising. It's an exciting time for higher education, but it's a challenging time for advising and a challenging time for higher education. It's a time in which we, as advisors, as a community of scholars, as a community of learners, have to begin to really step up and say what's important on our campuses and become focused on what matters for students. So I want to spend some time talking today about how do you become a leader on your campus? How do you work with making a culture shift? Because that's what we're talking about. You know, we're talking about changing the cultures of our campuses. You know, for too many years, whenever we talked about student success or student retention, everything was focused on what students needed to do. And we're finally recognizing that institutions have a job in this. We have a role in this. And we have to change just as much as we expect students to change. The problem we have is it's much easier to move a cemetery than in a college. Dead people will get up and walk faster than we will change an academic policy. Okay? And so when we talk about changing culture, it's not easy. And it takes a real movement. And so what I want to talk about is how do we begin that movement? And how do we begin doing that on your own campuses regardless of what your position is? Because regardless of what your position is, you are a leader in student success. You're a leader in academic advising, and you're a leader in teaching and learning. Because academic advising is about teaching and learning. It is not about scheduling. It is not about registration. But if we don't change that culture, then we have that problem that we're going to continue with. Dana Zahorik, our former president, was just on a plane sitting next to a faculty member from a small liberal arts college in the Midwest. And of course, she's a nice lady, so she talks to people on planes. I don't talk to people on planes. And the gentleman said, "What do you do?" And she says, "I'm an academic advisor." And he said, "I hate advising." And she said, "Sir," he said, "I teach at blank college and I hate advising." She said, "What is it you hate?" "I hate them coming in and having to fill out their schedule and not." And she said, "Okay, so what you hate is scheduling." And he went, "Well, isn't that the same thing?" And she said, "Do you like talking to students about their future?" "Well, yeah." "Do you like talking about your subject matter?" "Well, yeah." "Do you like talking about where they want to go when they graduate and what they..." "Well, yeah." That's advising. And this faculty member said, "I've been teaching for 30 years, little girl, and this is the first time anybody's explained that to me." So it was really an exciting moment for her, because here was somebody who truly said, "I hate advising," but never realized what he really said was, "I hate scheduling," and thought it was the same thing. So how do we begin to change that culture? So what I want to do is think about, as we know, we've all used this quote from Alice in Wonderland, you know, when Alice asked the Cheshire Cat, you know, "How do I get from here to there?" And he says, "You know, if you don't know where you want to go, it doesn't matter what path you take." You know, we tell students that all the time. Well, it's the same thing with academic advising. If we don't know what we want academic advising to look like in 5 years, we don't know what path to take. And on too many campuses, we're making decisions about things like technology use, technology systems, about professional development programs, about whether to use advising or coaching or whatever, before we've decided what we want advising to look like. So first thing we've got to do is really talk about, what does advising look like today, and what do we want it to look like, and then let's choose the pathway to get there. Who better knows what advising looks like than you in this room? Who better to lead those conversations when you get back to campus? So it becomes a challenge to you, and how do you begin to build those partnerships, to build those bridges as we move through and think about that? You know, we all heard the word reform, until reform's just out everybody's wazoo, okay? But the idea of reform has so many definitions, and you know, one of the definitions is to put or change into improved condition of form. I don't like that because improved means something's bad to begin with. You know, the other one is to improve or amend by change or fault of abuses or faults. None of you got up this morning and said, you know, when I get to school this morning, I'm going to screw the hell out of some student. That's my goal for the day. I'm going to make sure they don't graduate. None of you did that, okay? None of your faculty do that. None of your administrators do that, all right? But sometimes we get so wrapped up in the mistakes people make that we think people are doing that. But I love the last definition of the reform, but to become changed for the better, like the soft and wicked, change for the good. So what we're talking about is how do we change academic advising for the better? Meaning, what do we want it to be? And then once we talk about what we want it to be, we then talk about what the steps to get there are. But on too many campuses, we're beginning these steps before we know where we want to end up. So how do we begin to do that? I love these posters that the ILACADA staff created. This is one of my favorite ones. You know, we need to think about as we deal with students every day, when they leave your offices, do they truly feel these things occur? Do you encourage questions, or do you simply give answers? You know, for many students, they just want answers. They don't want questions. You know, it's the student that you say, tell me what you want to do. I don't know. You know, who sent you to see me? I don't know. What is it you want? I don't know. How'd you get here? That lady? Every campus has the same lady. Okay, that same lady across the world is sending that same student to see you, and they have no idea why. Okay? Because they just want to be told stuff. Are we encouraging questions from students? Are we forcing questions? Are we engaging students in their own education? There's a difference between a student understanding what courses to take and being engaged in a major. Being engaged in a decision-making process about where they want to go. And many times advising is not engaging. So is that student being engaged when they work with you? Do you support critical thinking? How much critical thinking has to go into whether you take English on Tuesdays or Thursdays? None. Okay? So asking a student that is not critical thinking. The critical thinking is, why do you need that English course? Why that course instead of this course? Why will this history course be a better elective for you for your gen ed than this sociology course? What is it about you that's going to make this a better fit? Those are those critical questions and critical thinking that we need to have students doing, not choosing which day to take courses. And many times that's the only critical thinking we ever give them. You inspire dreams, you boost spirits. For many of you, you're the people who you're the bearer of bad news, right? You're not going to get into that program you've always wanted to be in. I've always wanted to be a nurse. Where are my nursing advisors? Bless your hearts. Okay, God love you. Okay, you're going to get to heaven because you've been in hell. All right? Okay, all right. Because nothing's worse than the student that says, I've always wanted to be a nurse my entire life. And why they want to be a nurse? Because they want to help people. Honey, there are more ways to help people. But that's what they've always heard. You know, you're not going to be able to come back next semester because you no longer have financial aid. We're many times the people who tell the students the bad news. How do we boost their spirits at the same time that we're doing that? Because we have to understand that when we see evaluation, when you only use surveys to assess advisement, 9 times out of 10, the negative comments about advising has nothing to do with the advising relationship or the appointment. It has to do with the news that was given. It has to do with the course schedule. It has to do with a policy you have no control over. But it has nothing to do with the relationship you have with that student. So we have to begin to recognize that part of what we do is boost spirits and help them move forward. We inspire dreams. You know, there's been a whole lot of of articles across the Chronicle in the past couple of years about dreams and about having students, whether they should dream or not dream, and that's too big for an 18-year-old and whatever. And I'm just sorry. I really believe in dreaming. And I think it's important to help students reach their dreams and to ask them what their dreams are. I know that an 18-year-old, the only dream they're thinking about is whatever dream they had last night, but it's still important for them to think about what that means. But we got to inspire that. How many of your students come to you and they never even thought they could come to college? They've already met part of the dream that they had the guts to walk onto your campus. Now you need to inspire them to the next step. So we inspire those dreams. We cultivate learning. Advising is about learning. It is not about scheduling. It is about learning. Learning what you need to do to be successful. Learning how to plan an educational plan. Learning what it is your goals are. Learning how to reach those, which means that's what we're teaching. That's what our curriculum is. And for too many of our campuses, no one recognizes we have a curriculum. And it's because we haven't defined that curriculum well. So we need to, as a community of scholars, as a community of leaders, begin to define our curriculum better to our counterparts on our campuses and talk about what students are learning when they see an advisor, whether it be a faculty advisor or a primary role advisor or a peer advisor, whatever the case may be. What are they learning? And we do all of these things because we advise. You know, you did not choose to go into advising because you thought you were going to get rich. If you did, you needed a better academic advisor. Okay? Because you made a bad choice. All right? So we advise because we believe in that. But how are we changing the culture of the campus when we believe in that? How are we every day delivering this message as we talk to our students and we talk to our colleagues as we go through? Maya Angelou is my favorite author in the world, and you just have to deal with it. I learned that people forget what you say, people forget what you did, but they forget how you made them feel. That's what advising is all about. 10 years from now, students are not going to remember you told them to take English on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're not going to remember you maybe got them out of a bind, but I guarantee you they're going to make you remember how you made them feel. Did you make them feel they could be successful when nobody else did? Did you make them feel they made the best choice by coming to your campus, by choosing your major? Did you make them feel on that day that everybody else had said to them, you're not worthy? Were you the one person who made them feel they mattered? How many students walk off of our campuses and are never missed? Too many. And it's because they know that they don't know they matter. You as advisors are the people who help students know they matter. You're the ones who look for them. You're the ones who wonder where they are. So that's what advising is all about, is helping students know they matter and how they move forward. And then I love my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive. And to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. I love that. I love that. Okay, we are not 8-to-5ers. You know, advising is not an 8-to-5 job. You take it home every single day. It doesn't matter whether you are doing work at home. It doesn't matter whether you're taking phone calls at home. You're still living it. You don't turn off at 5 o'clock. Okay? It's a part of your life. It's a part of your existence. It's a part of who you are. Now, how many of you have been followed through the grocery store advising at 10 o'clock at night? Okay? All of you. You've not been an advisor long enough if you haven't been followed into the bathroom and either tried to get advised at the urinal or through the stall. Okay? That's when you can wear the signed advisor. Okay? All right? Because we never are not advising. We are always advising. It's who we are. But it's because we do it with passion. It's not something we do because we just do it. You know, if you wanted just a job, you could be making a lot more money or doing a lot less work. You know, you could go welcome to Walmart and probably make as much as some of you are making in Illinois right now. Okay, don't mean to slam your state, but your state's the same issue Kansas is in right now. We're broke as it can be. But the idea is you're doing this because you have a passion about it. You are compassionate about your students. And your students feel that. And by God, if we don't have a sense of humor, guys, we need to get out of here. Because there are days you just got to laugh. How many of you have just walked to the office next to you and said, you will not believe what that student just said to me? Oh, I thought I had heard it all. Okay? Or better yet, you will not believe what that faculty member just said to me. Or what that advisor just said to me. Or what that, if you don't laugh, you're going to lose your mind. You know, it's like when I used to teach school, first started teaching school 100 years ago, back in the old days, teaching 10th grade English in Southeast Georgia. I walked in the teacher's lounge at the end of my very first day of teaching and sat down and lit a cigarette. Yes, I'm evil. And had there been a liquor bottle near, I would have had it as well. And a lady who'd been teaching 25 years walked in and said, guess what, honey? You just got 29 years and 179 more days to go. I had to just laugh, you know, because we have those days that we think, I can't do this one more day. And then you just have to laugh. The humor keeps us going. And the humor we have with each other, and the humor we have with our students. You know, that's what keeps us going. And then last, we do it with some style. Nobody's more stylish than an advisor because, by God, we understand style. Because style means success. Style means you're going to be something you never thought you could be before in your life. Style means that you're going to do something no one else in your family has ever done before. But you're going to be the one who's done it. So we bring style to it because our students need to hear that and to hear that from us. I love this quote. It's an old quote, but we're faced with a series of great opportunities brilliantly describes unsolvable problems. Today in higher education, all we hear about is problems. I mean, you're around. You read the Chronicle. You read USA Today. You read all the newspapers. You know, higher education is not well thought of today, right now. You know, the polls don't show us very well thought of. And we need to be aware of that. And we need to be aware that there are issues. Now, we can either approach those as unsolvable problems or we can approach those as opportunities for change. And I think we need to approach them as opportunities for change. Johnny Can't Read came out in the 70s. And K-12 was under the microscope ever since. And higher education has been allowed to float by for all these years. And the whole idea was it didn't matter how many students came in the front door and went out the back door as long as you got enough to replace where they came in. Some of you are old enough in this room to remember going to college your first day and the president said, look to your left, look to your right, 2 of you won't be here next semester. And that was supposed to really inspire you. Okay? And they thought, but the sad thing was they were right. They were true. And they were proud of that. I can remember teaching with English composition faculty member who were proud of the fact that 80% of their students failed composition the first semester. And I used to look at them and say, I couldn't sleep at night if 80% of my students failed. We're the gatekeepers of the curriculum. No, you're the bitch of the curriculum. Okay? Right? Because if you're proud of the fact that students aren't succeeding, you need to go welcome to Walmart. Because if you don't want students to succeed, why are you here? You're here because you want students to succeed. You're in this room because you are. You know, you're the shining light. You're the choir. Okay, we'll sing at the end. How about that? You're the choir. Okay? Now, the key is you need to go back and spread the message back on your campuses and back into the state and back into the region as we go forward. That we know we have unsolvable problems. We know we have financial trouble. We know we have low numbers. We know we have enrollment issues. We know all of these things. Now, we can either whine about them or we can figure out what are the opportunities we can use to build upon those, which takes careful thought and analysis on everybody's part. The problem is advisors aren't normally involved in those conversations. And we've got to get involved in those conversations on campus. We need to be part of the solution making, not part of the implementation of solutions that other people are creating. We need to be part of the implementation of technology we've helped select, not implementing technology we never had a voice in selecting. So it becomes important that we become a part of that as we move forward. We know, 100 years ago, not really, but in the early 90s, might as well be 100 to some of y'all, retention is a byproduct of a good quality educational experience. Vincent Tinto told us that. Retention is never a goal. Institutions that say we want to retain 20 more students by next year or by the next 10 years or whatever they do, barely ever reach it unless they've got some initiatives they put into place that look at the campus wide. Okay, the problem we have is we haven't defined on our campuses what is a good educational experience. So as a community of scholars on your campuses, as a community of advisors, what I want you to do is to go back home and begin to have this question. Ask this question in your offices. Ask this question in your hallway. Ask this question of your fellow faculty members. What is a good quality education look like at Illinois State, at University of Illinois Springfield, at University of Illinois Champaign, at wherever you may be, at Western Illinois University, because it's going to be different from every campus. That's the problem we have, is everybody wants success to look the same at every campus. And every campus has a different mission. And every campus has a different set of students. So it's going to look different. What's it going to look like on your campus? How do you define that? What does a quality educational experience look like? Because if you don't know what it looks like, how do you know if you ever achieve it? And too many campuses have said, we're going to improve the undergraduate experience, but they don't ever say what that improvement is going to look like. It's like the student that says to you, I'm going to study more next semester, right? And you say, what's more? And they say, well, I'll buy the book. Okay, so to them, that's more. Okay, that's the same thing with the administrator who says, we're going to improve the educational experience. What's it going to look like? Well, we don't know that yet. Well, if you don't know that yet, then how do we know we're going to reach it? So become part of that conversation. We need to ask that key question. We need to be researching the key answers. As advisors, we've got to get involved in the research in the field. We've just opened the ILACADA Research Center. We stole from Illinois. I am proud to say I stole from Illinois one of your best people in the world, Wendy Troxel, from Illinois State. I stole her. Give her a round of applause that I stole her. All right? She's doing amazing work with the new ILACADA Research Center. We need to get involved with the research in the field, because if we don't understand what the impact is that advisors having those students, how do we communicate that to our faculty, to our administrators? What type of research are you doing? How are you involved in that research? This coming fall, we opened what we thought would give us, 40, 50 max writing groups. People who would get into some writing groups to begin doing some research, a new initiative of the Research Center. We have 175 people registered from across the country who want to begin to do writing. We had to close the writing sections. That's exciting. That's not sad. That means next semester you need to be ready to join the minute you see those come up on the website. Because there are people like you out there who want to start writing and want to start doing research and want to join with each other to do that. It's an exciting opportunity in the field, but we've got to start to do it. We've got to reframe the learning of advisors. Okay, my total training to be an advisor was my dean walking in my office at 5:30 afternoon, the day before new students came and said, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you, part of your contract is you advise students, and they're going to be here tomorrow. You might want to read the catalog. That was my total training. And for some of you, that was probably more than you got. We need to reframe the learning of advisors. Most learning of advisors is based on financial aid policies, new curriculum requirements, and new databases. Ask it, how many of you on Banner? I still have nightmares of short term, SFA, RGS, Chartrans. I can see them in my mind. Okay? All right? Because I implemented Banner on my campus in 1998. All right? I had no gray hair back then. Okay? But most training is technology-based, it's curriculum-based, it's financial aid-based, but it's not what advising is based. It's not theory-based. It's not how students learn based. It's not what an advisor is based. It's not based upon the core competencies. Okay? I've never had this opportunity before to tell the state of Illinois to get off your seats and stand up and give Terry Farr a standing round of ovation. Stand up and applaud this woman. Because the work that she has led a whole committee to create the competencies for academic advising is going to change our profession. And one day you're going to be able to say, I knew her when. She might be dead then, but you can still say, I knew her when. All right? But the idea is we've got to build on competencies. What is it we need to know, do, and value? What are our core values? What is the informational? What's the relational? What's the conceptual? And most training, most learning needs to be reframed totally. It's exciting to see campuses like University of Tennessee, Knoxville, like Kansas State, like Brigham Young University, like the entire Alamo Community College system that is starting to build advisor career ladders built upon competencies and learning of advisors. And people will get promoted to different levels or different pay raises based on what they know, not that they just lived long enough to get to the next level. And on many campuses, that's all it is. You've been here 5 years, you get a raise. Okay? And if you ever want to get any amount of money, your boss has to either die or retire, and you don't care which. Okay? And many of you have no desire to be a director, but that means you're never going to be promoted because we have no career ladder. These competencies, these core values that have been created are going to be a great opportunity for us to reframe learning if we take that and use that. And then to reframe the institutional response to advising. We've got to begin to do that. Nancy King, many years ago, said, advisors are interpreters who help students navigate the new world. I love that quote. Interpreters. Higher education is a foreign language. You know, we talk about grade point average and matriculation and bursar's office and syllabus and all of those things, and we think students know what they're talking about. They have no idea, especially first-generation students. That's the fastest growing population in the country right now. And the fastest growing population, there was an article yesterday in the Chronicle that is being ignored are adult Hispanic first-generation students. They are being ignored by all levels of colleges in the country. We're looking at 18-year-old Hispanics, but we're not looking at adult Hispanics. And those are the folks who really need the education to be able to support their families. But they're first-generation students. Raise your hand for your first generation. Raise it proud. Look at this. Okay? You remember what your first day on college was about? You didn't know anything. And people were asking you about questions, and you just said yes, and just do whatever they told you to do. Okay? You've all heard this story, but you're going to hear it again. You know, I was first generation. My parents dropped out of college to go to war in the 40s. My older brother's very successful contractor, now retired. My sister went to college after she was married and had children. I was told my entire life you were going to college. I was going to college. I graduated from a little bitty high school in southeast Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia, working at Susan Roebuck in the summertime. I'm going to college that fall. August, the phone rang. The phone said, I answered the phone, said, good afternoon, this is Sears. And the voice said, can I speak to Charlie? And being a good English major, I knew the right pronoun to use. I said, this is he. Okay. And the voice said, Charlie, this is Fred Griffith. Well, I knew Mr. Griffith. He was the registrar at my local community college. His wife was my art teacher in college. Sounded familiar to some of your little communities? Everybody knows everybody? He said, Mary tells me you're coming to college this fall. I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, you might want to apply. I had not applied, folks. I was just going to walk up. How many of your students just walk up? Even if they've applied, even if you give them a residence hall, even if they're still just walking up because they have no idea what to do. What are we teaching them? What are we interpreting for them? It's about communication and language and building relationships. What Britt McFarland from UC Davis talks about, what time is it? What time is it? Okay. That every college, every university has to be sure we're doing three major things for students. We have to be sure we're giving them informational guidance, meaning do we know stuff? Intellectual mentorship, meaning do we care and are we there? Do we have that relationship? And developmental relationships, meaning that we know where to send people. We know how to build relationships. We know we're accessible when students need us. And I believe that. Another way to look at it is people want to know that we know stuff, we care, and that we're there. And if they know we care, they'll let us slide on the first two. Because they know we care, they know we'll find out what we don't know. And they know that we'll find a way to be accessible to them. Now, what we have to be worried about and concerned about is our 18-year-olds today who think that means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, the worst thing you can do in the world is answer an email after midnight, right? Because then every student in the world thinks that you're the person who will answer emails after midnight. And they tell all their friends, oh, email Mark, he never sleeps. Okay? Forget your advisors, email him. Okay? Because they all assume that within that. We have to teach students what accessible means. Accessible is not a McDonald's version of college. This doesn't mean you drive through, supersize it, drive back out with a degree. It means you have to do the work, but we're going to teach you how to do the work. We're going to be with you each step of the way as you do the work, which means we need to know what that is and how to move forward. Advising teaches students several things. First, it teaches them how to make sense of those experiences. As a first-generation student, we're having all sorts of experiences that we've never had before. How many of you are different because you have an undergraduate degree? How many of you are different? How are you different?
I'm more social.
You're more social, okay? Who else is different? Now, the hand's going to go up now. Yeah, because y'all didn't know this was the audience participation part, right? How are you different? I learned how to learn. Who else is different? Wider worldview. Diversity. Lifelong learner. Self-advocacy. Confidence. Leadership capabilities. Writing skills. You learn what? I learned to take critiques. Those are things that we want our students to get, aren't they? But we have to teach them how to make sense of those because those are new experiences to them. You know, I went to a college, a small liberal arts college in the middle of Missouri, and we spent a whole day talking about what means success on their campus and what do they need to do. And it's a very selective college. And one of the first things they talked about, which I thought was very interesting, was that they needed to teach students how to fail. Well, coming from a community college, that really hit me wrong because I thought, well, they know how to do that pretty well. But what their thing was they had the students who the minute they made an A-, they freaked. And they didn't understand that if you didn't do well, that meant that you learned from that in order to do better the next time. And that their students were so used to being successful that the first time they hit a wall, the first response was to walk out. Well, I never had thought about it that way because that was a different type of student that I had dealt with. So we have to think about who our students are. We need to derive meaning from those experiences. It's not enough just to realize that I know diverse people now, that I recognize the people who don't look like me. What did I learn from that? You know, it's like the person who says, some of my best friends are gay. You know, some of my best friends are black. Some of my best friends are Muslim. Well, we're proud of you. Okay, that's nice. But what have you learned from that? And for too many of our students, we do diversity training, but they never learn anything from it. What's the meaning? You know, it's like the last thing any of you want to do is go to a human resources diversity training one more time in your career, because we've been doing it for 40 years and nothing's changed. Because it doesn't talk about inclusivity. It doesn't talk about social justice. It doesn't talk about multiculturalism. That's what we learn. That's the meaning we derive from those experiences. You know, if you've never been the only in a group, how can you even understand how your only Hispanic student feels? Or your only gay female student feels? If you've never been an only, and many of our students coming in have never been an only. Some of you in this room have never been an only before. So how do we understand that? It's part of that. And then we've got to make decisions based on this. Once I've learned it, once I understand it, now what decisions do I make? How am I going to treat people differently? How am I going to go out into the world and take my degree and make a better world, not just a better paycheck? All right? We all want our students to get jobs. Yes. We all want our students to do well financially. Yes. But we also want them to make a better world for us as we go into our old age. Right? Who has a child in college? Boy or girl? Boy. What do you want for your child? I want him to be successful.
But I want him to be successful.
A good citizen. A good steward of this world. Give her a round of applause. She's a good mom. Okay? She's lying, but she's a good mama. Okay? She wants him the hell out of her house because she's got friends whose kids have doctorates who are still living in their basements. Okay? Many of you know Marcia Miller, the executive office, wonderful woman, not the happiest, smiliest woman in the world, but a phenomenal woman. The happiest I've ever seen Marcia Miller in 30 years of working with her was one day she walked in and said, both kids have benefits. Okay? Parents bring their kids to college, they want them to get a job, they want them to get benefits, they want good nursing homes. Okay? Our job is to make them get all of it. We want her to have all those things too. We want you to have a good nursing home, honey. We don't want you on the street. Right? But we also want your son to change the world. We want your son to make a difference in society. It's nothing wrong with saying we're helping students get jobs, and that's part of higher education's role. And we've got to get away from that. Liberal arts colleges have got to get away from fighting the concept that education is about getting a job, because it is. But it's about changing the world once you get that job and how we change it, okay? If you haven't read this article by Eric White, former ILACADA president, I really encourage you to read it. One of the reasons I like it was in the Journal of General Higher Education, so it was not the academic advising journal. Nothing against our journal, but the fact that we're beginning to see research about advising in other disciplinary journals is exciting. But I love this article, and Eric talks about the purposes of academic advising, accommodate all students so that they can make reasoned demands. I love that, reasoned demands. How many of your students make unreasonable demands of you? But more importantly, how many of them are making unreasonable demands of themselves? I can take 20 hours, work full time, be a single parent, all the things that they think they can do because they're making unreasonable demands of themselves. And we do it to them. You know, it's a 2-year degree, but oh, by the way, it's going to take you 7 years to get out. Okay? And we got to begin to look at these issues as we go through that. But as they set and enact the goals of their lives, I love that last sentence. As they set and enact, they set. It's not our job. Your job is not to set your students' goals for their lives. Your job is to help them set them and to help them enact them. But that is not your job as an advisor. But how do we teach students how to do that? And he goes on to say that we do it by teaching them how to craft their own education, mold, create, form, not just take courses, not just know what checkoff boxes to do, but to create an education that fits what I want to do, to take the right electives, to do a dual major, to look at international study, to do whatever the case may be, but to craft that education to get the best out of what I can do to where I want to be. To understand the path they've chosen. So many students don't understand the path they've chosen. You know, I want to be a nurse and I want to help people. Right? The other one is, where are my teacher ed folks? Teacher ed folks, raise your hand. Okay, how many of you got? I want to be a teacher. Why? Because I love children. Nobody loves children. Nobody. Nobody. You love your grandchildren. You put up with your children to get grandchildren. Trust me. Okay? All right? When I was a high school principal and assistant principal, I never ever hired the candidate who said to me, I want to teach you because I love children. What I said to them is, you've never been in a classroom before, have you? You've never been in 5 classes of 40 ninth graders who are reading on a 2nd grade level before in your life, have you? Because you don't love children after that first day, honey, trust me. All right? So we got to make them understand what that pathway means. Doesn't mean we don't need teachers, but they need to understand what teaching is. They need to understand what nursing is. They need to understand what computer science is. Engineering, I want to be an engineer. But I don't know what a mechanical engineer is versus an electrical engineer versus a chemical engineer, but I'll be an engineer. So what's that pathway? Our job is to create a culture of learning. I love this. To create a culture of learning, not a culture of compliance. Too many campuses are creating a culture of compliance. It's check the right box, you get out. Get the degree audit right, you get out. But we're not focused on learning. Are you focusing your students on learning or taking courses? Which is that you're doing as an advisor? So as you're working with students, are you focusing on the learning they're going to get? Or are you only focusing on which courses to take? 2 different things, folks. And you can make that difference. That's how you talk to the students. How you communicate with the students about course selection comes down to what is it they're learning. Is it a culture of learning or compliance? Engaged in their own education. Transforming the experience to reach passions, not just jobs, as I talked about earlier. Another book I encourage you to read if you haven't read is The Undergraduate Experience, Focusing the Institution on What Matters Most by the Gardners and a few other authors. But I love what they say here is they say we already have what we need in higher ed. We keep looking for the magic bullet. It doesn't exist. We already have it, folks. We have optimism. By God, if you weren't optimistic, you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning with some of the things you go to face. Okay, we ought to have patience. You have the patience of Job. We have teamwork. We have muscle. But they're never going to be quick fixes. They're never going to be gimmicks. There's never going to be a computer system you buy that's going to solve all your problems. EAB will not solve the world. I'm not saying EAB is bad. I'm just saying if you're buying it because you think it's going to change the world, then you got a problem. Okay? Banner isn't going to change the world. Hobbs, I don't care what you buy. Starfish, Moonbeam. I don't know what they are. But the key is it's supposed to support student success. It doesn't change what you do. Okay? So we got to think about that. And I know I'm over time because he's just a pacing in the back, so I got to hurry up. So what matters most? Everyone should be motivated to learn. Faculty, administrators, I have what that means. I'm 10 minutes slower, or well, whatever the hell that means, right? Okay. Okay. Relationships of all kinds matter. What kind of relationships do you have with the faculty on your campus, in your department, in your college? What kind of relationship do you have with other advisors on your college, in your state? This is the best event you can ever come to. Yes, I want you in Phoenix next week. Yes, I want you in Phoenix next week. But this is the best experience you can ever come to, because where else do you get to talk to people who are doing what you do every day in a state like yours, which is facing so many problems? And I'm not down in Illinois. I got the same thing in Kansas. But you need to come together. You need to bond. You need this, baby. It's okay. We're going to be fine. Okay, we need this. Take advantage of that. Clear and high expectations. Students will never rise to low expectations. You only want to make a C, that's all they're going to make. If you only expect them to see you to get registered, that's the only time they're going to come see you. So if advising is only about registration, and that's the only time you require them to see you, then who has told them that advising is about registration? You have. How are you going to change that? How are you going to change that when you get back to your campus? Alignment of resources, policies, and practices. This is a hard one. This is hard. Some of you got some policies and practices been around since Methuselah. They've been around forever. And you're doing them, why? Because we've always done them that way. Okay? We need to begin looking at, do the policies and procedures reflect who our students are today? Do they reflect our programs today? Do they reflect our systems today? And for many campuses, we've implemented all new systems, but we've never changed policies and procedures that are 30 years old. Advisors, you know those policies and procedures better than anybody. The fortunate thing is you didn't create them. So how do you help lead the discussion of how to change them? Alignment, assessment of learning, leadership at all levels. We never forget, folks, that we advise, but the student decides. It's not our job to decide for them. So what's your job as the role of a leader? You need to go back to your campus, and you need to get a clear vision of what advising is. How many of you have ever written down your own philosophy for academic advising and shared it with someone and had them read it? Rest of you, get off your butts and do it. How can you tell your campus you're an advisor if you've never written down what you think advising is and then shared it with each other and talked about it? You cannot tell your administrators we have a vision for advising if you've never written your own vision statement and your own philosophy statement. Your homework for tonight is to write your vision, your philosophy statement. Share it with others. Provide information about it. Coordinated balancing. Leader takes time of crisis, and we're in a crisis right now in higher education. We're in a crisis of whether our students are going to be successful or not, and how do we help them be successful in order for funding to continue. But we've got to become part of the solution. So you're going to be a person who watches things, makes things happen? You're going to be people who watch things happen? Or you're going to be people who wonder what happened? You wandered on campus last week and said, where did this new student center building come from? It wasn't there yesterday? Okay, people who walk on campus and act like everything's changed and never saw it happening. You want to be someone who's involved in the change. So how do we do that? We need to improve student learning and success. We need to focus on student learning and academic advising. What are students learning because they see you? Not what services they're getting. You are not serving students. You are teaching students. Repeat after me. You are not serving students. You are teaching students. On too many campuses, people still say you're service providers, and I don't care where you report. If you report to student services, that's wonderful. You're still teaching. But people on your campus think you're serving. We got to change that philosophy. We got to inform future policy and practice. We got to influence the cultural change. I love this quote by Deming years ago. Without doubt, you're just another person with an opinion. My good old Southern mama used to say, everybody in the world has two things in common, an opinion and a belly button. Okay? And for many times, we're making decisions with no data to back it up. We're going to change this policy. Why? Because somebody came in and said I had a bad problem. I go to campuses and presidents tell me advising's broken. And I say, why is it broken? I had a student come in my office yesterday that said they spent 5 hours waiting to see Terry Farr, so it's broken. And I say, okay, now you're a chemist by background. An N of 1 is not a good research study. Okay? Or advising's great. Why? Because nobody ever complains. Right? Both are deadly, folks. What data do you have? So we need to start looking at the data. And they're going to share these PowerPoints with you, so I'm going to just slip through these. But here's some of the data that you need to be looking at and how you measure it. I love this quote. Would you rather work for change or just complain? 81% of the people say that's hard. I don't want to choose. Okay, you want to make change. You want to make enemies change something. Okay, it's not going to be easy when you go back home tomorrow and say, I've been to the ILACADA mountain. I have been to the top of the peak, and I know how to change what we're doing. People going to look at you like, yeah, you went to a party down the street. Okay? Folks, we got to be willing to make change. We got to step forward. We got to make what we know makes a difference on our campuses. Coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. Working together is success. You came together today. If all you do today is come together, have a good time, you should have stayed home. What are you going to do after today? What are you going to take back to your campus and change? How are you going to communicate to the people you heard present today and keep in touch and pass business cards around to begin to build a network? And then how are you going to come back to the next ILACADA meeting ready to present on what you put into place based on what you heard last year and that change? Or those of you who presented this year, how are you going to bring new research data to show the impact what you did last year did? Because if all you do is come and listen and have a great time and then go home and nothing changes, then you could have stayed home. All right? So finally, when your students enter your office, are you guaranteed they leave knowing these 4 things? First of all, do they feel respected? Do they feel like you respect them no matter who they are, no matter who they represent, no matter what their degree is, no matter what they look like, no matter what gender they are, no matter what sexual identity they are, no matter what, do they know they're respected? Are they valued? If I walked on your campus today and just picked a random 10 students and said, does this campus value you? How many of those students would say to me, yes, they do? Or how many students would say, I have no idea what you're talking about? Because those are the deadly ones. The ones who know they don't value you, they've already decided to leave. The ones that they know you value, they're going to stay. It's that huge gap in the middle who have no idea whether you do or not that we could save. And we could be successful college students if they just knew we valued them. How do we do that? They were heard. You didn't just listen, they were heard. You heard the pain. You heard the excitement. The student who comes in and says, I made a C. And you go, well, you could have made an A. Honey, that's the first time that student's ever seen that letter of the alphabet. They've only seen D, E, F's their entire life. And you just blew them out of the water. Now, I'm not saying you want to tell them to keep it the C, but maybe they need to celebrate the C. Did you hear what they were saying when they said that? Or did you hear when they said, I'm an A-, and they're brokenhearted? And you just want to say, suck it up, honey butter, or whatever that little buttercup, or whatever that thing was, okay? But, get a life. Bottom, do you matter? Do your students know they matter to you? And then I want to take it one step further. I want to make sure that you in this room know that you matter to ILACADA. and know that you matter to NACADA. Because if you don't know you matter to your professional associations, then we have a problem. We're going to be conducting in the next 3 months a very extensive inclusivity, diversity, and engagement study in our association, NACADA Association. At the annual conference this coming week in Phoenix, there's going to be a series of focus groups. Some of you may have already gotten emails inviting you to those focus groups. I encourage you to attend those. There's going to be interviews done, and then in October there's going to be a survey sent out to every single NACADA member asking you, is our association inclusive? Is our association diverse? Do we honor social justice? And we need to know that from you, because we can't become the association you want us to be if we don't know what it is we need to work on. So I encourage you to please get involved with that study and to please help us as we go forward. This has been a great opportunity. Thank you so much for putting up with me again in Illinois, and it's been a great day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First, $130 people, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, people who presenting at 1:30. I'm sorry.
I can cheer. Talk right into it? Okay. All right, so Showtime 3 will start at 1:45, and then, so everything will be back 15 minutes. So then break will be at 2:45 to 3. Showtime 4 will be at 3, and then our wrap-up will be at 4, just to accommodate, so you guys have some time to go to the bathroom and go to your next session. And yes, please make sure to do your evaluations. There's the website, go.uis.edu/ILACADA. Thank you.